Hello! It brings me so much pleasure to bring you today one of my nearest and dearest friends, Dr. Lara.
Hi.
She has got her PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry and she is one of our partners in formulating our products. So making sure that we have these incredible products that you see on our shelves and ensuring that they are of the utmost safety and efficacy. So first things first. So Dr. Lara, PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry, what does that mean?
Jeepers, for all my sins, I studied a whole whopping 10 years and walked away eventually with a PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry, having done an undergrad in BSc, honours and masters specialising in genetics and biochemistry, and somehow found my way into the wonderful world of pharmaceuticals. After I left pharma, I ended up in brands, so that's where we met, Nivea.
So fast fact, we actually met at Beiersdorf where I was doing trade marketing managing for female face care and Eucerin, and this is where I met my Dr. Lara.
And that's where I was doing the medical management for Eucerin, and that's where our paths and our journey together as friends started, and now we have the opportunity to work together and create beautiful products that are amazing formulations. And
thank you. So one of the topics today that has been kind of on my mind has been this whole concept around nature versus nurture. So being healthy is on everyone's minds at the moment, and it's always this conversation and this very delicate dynamic between, is it what you're born with or is it what you do? So obviously in your space, you know this better than I do.
So it boils, the nature versus nurture argument or discussion is always quite an interesting one. Essentially, when you're born, you inherit one copy of DNA from your mom and one from your dad.
Yeah.
Those are your genes. Now, in a very quick summary, essentially your genes is your genetic blueprint. So if you think about it, it's like the blueprint to a house. Then you get a builder who will come in and make the building using building blocks. The same way that genes, when they are expressed, create proteins, that essentially is why we are what we are.
Okay.
Now, a protein is anything from a hormone to a receptor to a tight junction to basically everything in our bodies.
Okay.
So you can understand it that the more that a gene is expressed, either the more of a protein you have or the less of a protein that you'll have. Now, where the nurture argument or conversation comes in is around a field that we call epigenetics. Epigenetics is a field of research that looks at, essentially, you've got your double helix. So this is now the genes that you get from your mom and your dad. They intertwine into this beautiful structure called a double helix. Now, on the outside of this helix are these things called methyl groups, which is basically one carbon and 3 hydrogen atoms that make a methyl group. And these are beautifully positioned around your genes. Now, what happens is when the methylation, so when there's more of them, they become more methylated, either a gene opens up and gets expressed more, which means you make more protein, or it becomes constricted and it creates less protein. So what epigenetics means is that the environment has the ability to either constrict your DNA, so you create more or less. And that's where the nurture argument comes in to say is that what we're exposed to actually has the ability to alter gene expression. Fundamentally, it won't change your genes because that is your blueprint, but it will change how the building blocks are laid down.
Okay, so to make sure I understand correctly, so it's saying that we have been born with a certain amount of hydrogen, the methyls.
So you've been born with a set blueprint of genes from your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
Then around them are these methyl groups. Now what happens is if you get exposed, the best example to use, for example, and this is not a direct correlation, this is a very rudimentary one, is, for example, if you get exposed to folic acid or if you get exposed to smoking, what can happen is that you increase the methylation, which either causes the genes to become more expressed or less expressed. So ultimately you're producing more or less of a certain protein depending on what you're exposed to.
Which could be bad in that sense.
Could be bad, and it could also be good.
So an increase in the methylation doesn't necessarily mean it's an increase in the negative.
Not necessarily.
It could be an increase in the positive too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very specific depending on the region.
Okay, so lifestyle factors are obviously part of the whole nurture side of things. So what, in your opinion, what type of lifestyle factors have a positive influence in terms of the increased methylation that is good?
So there's quite a lot of studies. So essentially you don't inherit your epigenome tags from your parents. What happens is when a an egg forms, so upon conception, is that epigenetic blueprint is actually wiped out.
Okay.
It has to, in order for that cell to grow into everything. Because now I can imagine when that egg gets stimulated to become, for example, an eye cell, a kidney cell, it receives that stimulus, so it needs to have no epigenetic blueprint because it needs to be susceptible to all the stimuli. So then what happens is, as we grow and evolve, we get these blueprint or these epigenetic tags along the way. A brilliant example, or one of the better examples, is the impact of exercise. Exercise and a healthy lifestyle have been shown to actually help with epigenetic and methylation patterns that are to the benefit of you, increasing certain proteins and decreasing certain proteins that aren't good for you.
So I think the crux of that for me was, now more than ever, it is important to live, eat, breathe a healthy lifestyle, because you have the ability to either increase or decrease these proteins and the methylations that could actually benefit you in a good way. So that's why it's so exciting to have Dr. Lara on board to help formulate these products, because more than ever we have somebody who actually believes in what we're doing and who knows how to make you say hello to a happier you a little easier. Thank you.